Meanwhile, in Gotham's central library, someone has to manage overdue books and quiet research requests, even when billionaires come looking for obscure case files at closing time. Welcome, friend. You've wandered into another quiet corner of a city, better known for its chaos than its calm. Tonight we're stepping behind the circulation desk at Gotham Public Library, where managing due dates and answering reference questions becomes a meditation, and where one of the world's greatest cities reveals itself through the most ordinary of work. Here, among the card catalogues and overdue notices, you'll discover that even in a city like Gotham, someone still needs to reshelve books and maintain proper library procedure, no matter what sounds echo from the streets outside. So before you settle in for this shift with me, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, so we can keep bringing you more tales from the ordinary side of extraordinary places. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. It's always good to know who's keeping me company during these quiet evening hours. Now get comfortable. Let the quiet hush of the reading room surround you, and allow the small, steady moments of library work to guide you gently toward rest. The key turns in the staff entrance lock with a familiar resistance, the kind that comes from a door that's been opened and closed thousands of times over decades. The mechanism inside the old brass hardware knows your rhythm now, knows exactly how much pressure you'll apply and at what angle, and it yields with a satisfying click that echoes slightly in the pre-dawn stillness of the alley behind Gotham Public Library. You push through the heavy door, and the transition from Gotham's October morning air to the library's interior is like stepping into a different world, one quieter, more controlled, where the temperature is regulated to protect the books and the lighting is designed for reading rather than drama. The staff hallway stretches before you, its walls painted the same institutional beige they've been for probably 40 years, lit by fluorescent fixtures that hum so softly you only notice them when everything else is completely silent. Your footsteps on the linoleum floor create a gentle rhythm that announces your arrival to the building, though no one else is here yet. The early shift, your shift, starts at 6:45 in the morning, 15 minutes before the library officially opens at 7. Those 15 minutes matter. They're the buffer that allows you to turn on lights, start computers, brew coffee in the staff room, and ensure that when the first patron arrives at 7:01, everything is already running smoothly. The staff room occupies a converted storage area near the back of the library, its single window looking out onto the alley, where delivery trucks unload new books and where staff take their breaks when the weather permits. The room itself is furnished with the accumulated comforts items of 3 decades of library workers. A microwave that's probably older than you are, a coffee maker that someone's aunt donated when she bought a new one, a small refrigerator with a sign that says, "Label your food or accept the consequences," and a table with 6 mismatched chairs that have supported countless lunch breaks and staff meetings. The coffee supplies sit in a cabinet above the sink, a modest assortment of grocery store brands that various staff members have contributed over time. You select the Maxwell House because it's dependable, and because at 6:47 in the morning, dependability matters more than sophistication. The coffee maker accepts the filter and grounds with the patient tolerance of a machine that has brewed thousands of pots, and soon the familiar burbling sound begins, accompanied by the equally familiar smell that will, in 15 minutes, become actual drinkable coffee. While the coffee brews, you move through the library's main floor. Flipping light switches in a sequence you've performed so many times, it's become automatic. Each bank of lights responds with a soft electric hum before the fluorescent tubes flicker to life, revealing section by section the vast collection that fills the building. Reference first, then periodicals, then the main circulation area, with its long desk and computer terminals and the mechanical date stamp that still, despite the digital age, gets used daily because some library tasks are simply done better the old way. The circulation desk is yours for the morning shift, your domain from 7 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. when Janice takes over. The desk itself is a massive piece of furniture, built sometime in the 1960s from oak, that's been polished by decades of elbows and hands resting on its surface. Behind it, a wall of small wooden drawers contains the card catalogue, still maintained in parallel with the digital system, because the library board decided years ago that physical backup systems have value, and because there's something about flipping through actual cards that digital searches can't quite replicate. You log into the circulation computer, watching as the system loads with its characteristic slowness. The Gotham Public Library uses software that was cutting edge in 2008 and has been maintained but not upgraded since then, resulting in a system that works perfectly well if you know its quirks and accept that load times are measured in seconds rather than milliseconds. The screen eventually displays the familiar interface: patron lookup, check-in, check-out, holds management, overdue notices, and the dozen other functions that constitute the digital side of library work. The phone system blinks to life as you turn it on, showing 7 messages waiting from yesterday evening. You'll deal with those after opening, when you have coffee, and when the urgency of any message can be assessed in the context of a new day. For now, it's enough to know that the phone is ready, that the system is running, that the building is prepared. You walk through the stacks, performing the opening inspection that's part security check and part morning ritual. The library's collection fills 10,000 square feet across 2 floors, with the main floor housing reference, periodicals, fiction, and the children's section, while the second floor contains non-fiction, genealogy, local history, and a quiet study area that patrons can reserve. Each section has its own character, its own particular smell, composed of paper and binding glue, and the accumulated presence of the books themselves. Reference occupies the space immediately behind the circulation desk, its shelves holding encyclopedias, dictionaries, atlases, and specialised reference works that don't circulate but can be used in the library. The Encyclopaedia Britannica sits in its place of honour, all 32 volumes arranged in perfect numerical order, their spines showing the wear of countless consultations. Next to it, Merriam-Webster's unabridged dictionary rests on its special stand, open to whatever word the last user was looking up. Today it's quixotic, which seems appropriate for a city like Gotham. The periodicals section contains current newspapers and magazines, each one precisely arranged in its designated rack. The Gotham Gazette occupies the prime position, its morning edition not yet arrived. That won't come until 7:30, when the delivery person makes their rounds. Beside it are the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and a dozen other publications that Gotham citizens apparently still read in physical form despite the digital age. The magazines range from Time and Newsweek to specialised publications about architecture, fashion, science and the arts. Each one has a date-due card system, even though they're not technically checked out, just to track when they should be moved to the back issue storage. Fiction fills the western wall, arranged alphabetically by author from Austen to Zafon. The collection is strong in classics and mysteries, reflecting both the library's acquisition history and what Gotham citizens apparently prefer to read. The mystery section alone takes up 10 shelving units, organised first by author and then chronologically within each author's works. There's something fitting about Gotham having an extensive mystery collection. A city that generates so much actual crime apparently still has residents who enjoy reading about fictional crime. The children's section occupies a corner area that's been furnished with low shelves, colourful carpet squares, and small chairs that can accommodate readers from toddler age through middle school. Picture books are arranged by author, early readers by reading level, and middle grade fiction by genre and then author. Stuffed animals donated by patrons over the years sit on top of some shelves, and a bulletin board displays the artwork from last month's children's reading programme. The space is designed to be welcoming, non-intimidating, a place where young Gotham citizens can discover that libraries are safe spaces full of stories and possibilities. You return to the circulation desk just as the coffee maker emits its final burble, signalling that the pot is ready. The staff room yields a mug, your personal mug brought from home, white ceramic with "Shh, I'm reading" printed in bold letters, and you pour carefully, leaving room for the powdered creamer that doesn't require refrigeration and that tastes approximately like cream if you don't think about it too hard. The coffee is hot and adequate, and you carry it back to the circulation desk with both hands, mindful of the library's no spills policy that you're technically enforcing even when it's just you and no patrons present. The mug finds its designated spot on a coaster to the right of the keyboard, positioned where it's easily reached but unlikely to be knocked into any electronic equipment. 6:58, 2 minutes until official opening. You perform the final checks: computer system running, date stamp inked properly, returned books cart ready to be processed, patron request forms available, pencils sharpened. The library provides only pencils, never pens, to protect the books from accidental permanent marks, and the sign-in sheet for computer use positioned at the end of the desk. The main door lock turns from the inside, and you flip the closed sign to open, though you know from experience that the first patron rarely arrives before 7:15. Gotham is not a city of early risers unless they've been up all night, and those who've been up all night typically aren't looking for library services at 7 a.m. You return to your station and log into the system to check the overnight holds. The computer takes its time loading the list. 12 items have come in since yesterday evening, dropped in the book return slot by patrons who finished them and couldn't wait until morning. These will need to be checked in, inspected for damage, and either reshelved or placed on the hold shelf for patrons who've requested them. The morning has begun. Gotham's Central Library is open, and you're ready for whatever the day brings: overdue book returns, research questions, computer assistance requests, and yes, occasionally, even visits from billionaires looking for information about obscure topics. But that's later. For now, it's just you, the coffee, and the quiet satisfaction of a library prepared to serve. The book return cart sits beside your desk, loaded with the items that were dropped in the outside slot overnight and retrieved this morning by Marcus, the maintenance worker who arrives at 6:30 to handle building preparation tasks. 16 books, 3 DVDs, and a magazine that someone apparently checked out despite the magazine section being technically non-circulating. You'll have to figure out how that happened later. The process of checking in returned items is one of those library tasks that looks simple from the outside but contains layers of procedure and attention that ensure the system works properly. Each item must be scanned, checked for damage, inspected for forgotten bookmarks or notes or other items left inside, and then either reshelved immediately if it's a high-demand item, or placed on the reshelving cart if it can wait for the afternoon shelving session. The first book is a hardcover edition of To Kill a Mockingbird, showing wear that indicates it's been read many times, spine slightly cracked, corners of the dust jacket showing fray, but overall in acceptable condition. The barcode scans cleanly, and the computer chimes softly to confirm the return, automatically removing the item from the patron's record and calculating that it's been returned on time. No fines assessed. You open the book, checking first inside the front cover where library markings traditionally go. The date due card sits in its pocket, showing a history of checkouts stretching back years. Stamps from 2015, 2017, 2019, 2021, each one a small record of someone in Gotham who wanted to read Harper Lee's classic. The stamps are in chronological order, but not evenly spaced, telling a story of varying popularity, of school assignments and personal interest, of this book moving in and out of the library in rhythm with the reading needs of the community. You fan through the pages, checking for damage, and find the book in good condition. No torn pages, no water damage, no marginalia beyond one small pencil mark on page 87 that's been there since 2016 based on its faded appearance, and that's light enough not to count as defacement. A receipt from the Gotham diner falls out from between pages 143 and 144, dated last week, for coffee and a muffin. The receipt goes in the recycling bin, and the book goes on the reshelving cart in the fiction section, to be returned to its place on the shelf between Lem and Lewis. The next item is a DVD of The Maltese Falcon in its library case with the security tag that makes the exit sensors beep if someone tries to leave without checking out properly. The case opens to reveal the disc in good condition. No scratches visible on the surface, properly seated in its holder. You scan the barcode on the case, and the computer records the return with another soft chime. DVDs are popular in Gotham, despite streaming services. The library's collection is free after all, and not everyone has reliable internet access or can afford subscription services. 3 books come next, all from the same patron based on the checkout history the computer displays. They're part of a series urban fantasy novels set in a fictional city that's clearly based on Gotham but legally distinct enough to avoid copyright issues. The protagonist is a wizard who works as a private investigator, solving crimes that the regular police can't handle because they involve magic. The books show the kind of wear that comes from engaged reading. Slightly bent covers from being held open, pages with faint creases from being read in bed or on the bus. All 3 scan properly, show no damage beyond normal use, and go on to the fiction cart in the section reserved for series books. A thick reference book comes next, Gotham, An Architectural History, 1820-1920. This is a requested item, which the computer indicates with a different tone and a pop-up showing that 3 patrons have placed holds. Instead of going on the reshelving cart, this goes on the hold shelf behind the desk, and you print the 3 hold slips that will notify each patron that their requested item is available. The slips print on the old dot matrix printer that the library has somehow kept running through 3 decades and 2 technology transitions. Their characteristic perforated edges creating that familiar Z sound. The next several returns are straightforward. Fiction, mystery, romance, and 1 cookbook that comes back with what looks like a small oil stain on page 67. Pasta Primavera recipe, spring vegetable section. The stain isn't bad enough to remove the book from circulation, but you make a note in the item record. Minor staining, PA 67, acceptable wear. If the staining gets worse with subsequent checkouts, the book will eventually be withdrawn from circulation and either sold at the annual book sale or sent to the city's donation programme. A children's book appears next in the cart, Where the Wild Things Are, in the large format hardcover edition that survived years of young readers. The book opens to reveal careful evidence of use. Clean pages, intact binding, no torn corners or crayon marks. Gotham parents, it seems, teach their children to respect library books, or at least this particular patron's children were respectful. The book gets a scan, a check, and placement on the children's section reshelving cart. The magazine that somehow got checked out turns out to be a back issue of Gotham Architecture Monthly from 6 months ago. A quick check in the system reveals that someone, probably a new volunteer who didn't know the magazine protocols, accidentally checked it out instead of just letting the patron read it in the library. The system allows you to void the checkout and mark it as a staff error. No fine assessed to the confused patron who probably didn't realise they weren't supposed to take it home. The magazine goes back to the periodicals section's back issue storage. The remaining DVDs scan normally. Classic films that the library has owned for years. Curated collection pieces that represent cinema history. Casablanca, Rear Window, and The Third Man, all returned on time, all in good condition, all ready to go back on the shelf for the next patron who wants to experience these films the way they were meant to be seen, on physical media, without streaming compression, with the knowledge that you have 2 weeks to watch before they're due back. The final item in the cart is a book that makes you pause slightly. Criminology, Theory and Practice, 3rd edition, a thick textbook from the non-fiction collection. The book has been checked out by the same patron 3 times in the past 6 months, which the system helpfully displays in the checkout history. The patron's name, Wayne BT, appears in the system with a Wayne Manor address and a library card that's been active for 15 years with 0 fines ever assessed. Bruce Wayne checks out library books. This shouldn't surprise you. Wealthy people use libraries too, especially for research materials that even their extensive personal collections might not contain. But there's something quietly amusing about knowing that one of Gotham's richest citizens regularly uses the public library's collection. His checkout history, visible in the system because you're processing his return, shows an interesting pattern. Criminology texts, architectural history, chemistry references, martial arts manuals, and surprisingly, books on trauma counselling and grief. The criminology textbook goes on the reshelving cart for the non-fiction section, 2nd floor, 364.3, Crimes and Criminals, Sociological Perspectives. You make a mental note that Bruce Wayne might be back for more research materials soon, based on the pattern of regular checkouts. With all returns processed, you update the statistics sheet that tracks daily circulation. 20 items returned so far, checked in and ready to be reshelved or held for waiting patrons. The morning is progressing exactly as mornings do, with the steady accumulation of small tasks that constitute library work. The phone rings, your first call of the day. You reach for the phone on the 3rd ring, pressing the button that connects to the main library line. Gotham Public Library, reference desk, how can I help you? The voice on the other end is elderly, female, with the kind of precise diction that suggests education and careful speaking habits. Good morning. I'm trying to find information about a building that used to stand at the corner of Cane and Finger Streets, but I'm not sure what it was called or when it was demolished. Can you help me with that? This is exactly the kind of question that makes reference work interesting. Specific enough to have a real answer, but vague enough to require actual research. You open the browser window on your computer and navigate to the library's collection of digitized city records while keeping the phone balanced against your shoulder. I can certainly try, you say, typing search terms into the database. Do you know approximately what years you're interested in? Cane and Finger have been major streets for over a century, so narrowing the time frame would help. Oh, let me think. My mother mentioned it in stories from her childhood, and she was born in 1928, so it would have been standing in the 1930s at least. She said it was a hotel, quite grand, but I don't remember the name. You shift your search to focus on hotels in that neighbourhood during the 1930s, pulling up the library's architecture database and cross-referencing with historical directories. The computer works through the query, slower than ideal, but faster than having to search through physical card catalogues would have been. I'm finding several hotels in that area during that period, you say, scanning the results. The Bristol Arms Hotel was at 227 Cane Street. The Monarch Grand was a block away at Cane and Morrison, and there's reference to the St. Cloud Hotel, which was, yes, here it is, corner of Cane and Finger, built 1889, demolished 1973. Would that be the one? The St. Cloud, yes, that's what she called it. Oh, thank you so much. Do you have any photographs of it? You check the image database, navigating through the scanned archives that the library has been gradually digitizing for the past decade. I'm showing 3 photographs in our collection. They're from 1892, 1931 and 1960. I can email you digital copies if you'd like, or you can come in and view the originals in our local history room. Email would be wonderful. I'm not as mobile as I used to be, you see. You take down her email address, spelled carefully, letter by letter, and send the images with a brief explanation of their dates and sources. The entire interaction has taken perhaps 7 minutes, and you've helped a Gotham citizen connect with a piece of her family history. This is what reference work is really about, not just looking up facts, but helping people find the specific pieces of information that matter to them personally. The patron thanks you again before hanging up, and you make a note in the reference log. 7:34 a.m. Phone inquiry, local history, St. Cloud Hotel, provided photographs. The log serves multiple purposes, tracking what kinds of questions patrons ask, demonstrating the library's value to administrators and board members, and creating a record that helps with similar future questions. Before you can return to your other tasks, an actual physical patron approaches the desk, a middle-aged man in a business suit, carrying a leather briefcase and looking like he's on his way to an office downtown. He sets a small stack of books on the counter. "Returning these," he says, "and I need to place a hold on the next book in the series if it's available." You scan the books he's returning, all part of a historical fiction series about World War II resistance movements. The computer processes each one efficiently, and you check the catalogue for the next book in the series while the patron waits. "The next book is currently checked out," you tell him, "but I can place a hold for you and will notify you when it's returned. Do you want me to send the notification to your email or phone?" "Email is fine," he says, and you process the hold request, which generates an automated email that he'll receive within a few hours, confirming the hold placement and his position in the queue. In this case, he's third in line, which means probably a wait of 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how quickly the current readers finish. "Anything else I can help you with?" you ask, performing the standard follow-up that good reference service requires. "Actually, yes. Do you have any books about starting a small business? I'm thinking about opening a consulting firm, and I'd like to read about the legal and financial basics." This is a more open-ended question, which means guiding the patron rather than simply finding one specific answer. You stand up from behind the desk and gesture for him to follow you to the non-fiction section. "We have several options," you say, leading him to the 658 section, Small Business Management. "These are general business books organised by topic. Starting a business would be in this area, financial planning over here, legal requirements in this subsection." You pull 3 books that look relevant based on their titles and publication dates. One from 2 years ago about business plans, one about LLC formation and legal structures, and one about small business financing. The patron examines them, flipping through tables of contents, checking indexes for specific topics he's interested in. "These look perfect," he says. "Can I check them all out?" "Absolutely. Do you have your library card with you?" He does, a slightly worn card that he pulls from his wallet, the barcode still perfectly scannable despite obvious age. Back at the circulation desk, you process the checkouts, and the date stamp marks each book's card with today's date and a due date 3 weeks hence. November 21st. The stamp makes its characteristic thunk sound, satisfying in its mechanical certainty, and you hand the books back to him with the standard closing. "These are due November 21st. You can renew them online or by phone if you need more time." "Thank you," he says, and means it. You can tell by the way he carefully places the books in his briefcase, treating them with the respect that borrowed materials deserve. The morning is warming up, literally and figuratively. More patrons are starting to trickle in as Gotham wakes up and goes about its business. An elderly woman settles into one of the reading room chairs with the newspaper. Her arrival, so regular that you could set your watch by it, Mrs. Chesterfield comes in every weekday at 8 a.m, reads the Gazette for exactly 1 hour, and leaves at 9, a pattern she's maintained for the 7 years you've been working here. A college student approaches with a laptop and asks for the Wi-Fi password, which you provide from the laminated card kept at the desk. The password is changed monthly for security reasons, though you suspect most patrons just keep using the old passwords, since the system doesn't force disconnection and no one's asked IT to change that policy. The phone rings again, a patron calling to renew books remotely, which you process while they wait on the line, extending their due date for another 3 weeks and confirming the new date verbally before ending the call. A young mother with 2 small children approaches the children's section, and you watch peripherally as she helps them select picture books, her patient guidance evident in the way she points to different shelves and lets them make their own choices within the boundaries she set. The children's voices are soft. They've been taught library behaviour, which isn't universal but is always appreciated. The rhythm of reference work is like this: a mix of planned tasks and responsive service, of processing returns and answering questions, of maintaining systems and helping individuals. Each task is small, but together they constitute the essential work of keeping knowledge accessible to the community. Your coffee has gone lukewarm, but you drink it anyway, appreciating the caffeine more than the temperature. The morning sun is starting to come through the library's east-facing windows, creating pools of natural light that supplement the fluorescent overheads. Dust motes drift in the sunbeams, and you make a mental note that the windows probably need cleaning soon. Another task for Marcus and his maintenance schedule. The morning continues, steady and purposeful, exactly as library mornings should be. At 9 o'clock, you shift focus from reactive reference work to proactive collection management, specifically the task that every library must perform but that no one particularly enjoys: overdue books management. The computer system generates a daily report of all items that are overdue, organised by how late they are, and it's your responsibility to process this report and take appropriate action. You print the report, 3 pages of single-spaced entries, which is actually lighter than usual for a Wednesday. The library's overdue policy is structured in tiers. Items less than 7 days overdue receive a gentle reminder email. Items 7 to 30 days overdue receive a more strongly worded email and a phone call. Items 30 to 90 days overdue receive all previous contacts plus a letter, and items more than 90 days overdue are considered lost and result in the patron's account being blocked until the situation is resolved through either return or payment. The first page of the overdue report contains items in the 7-day or less category. These are often simple oversights, people who lost track of dates or who had unexpected situations that prevented timely return. The system sends automatic emails to these patrons, but you review the list anyway, checking for patterns or unusual circumstances that might warrant personal contact. Most entries are straightforward: 1 book overdue by 3 days, 2 DVDs overdue by 5 days, a biography overdue by 6 days. One entry catches your attention though, a patron named Wilson. Jay has 7 items, all overdue by exactly the same number of days, which suggests that something happened to prevent a planned bulk return. You make a note to follow up with a personal phone call rather than relying solely on the automatic email, because 7 items represents a significant portion of the patron's account and probably deserves human attention. The second page contains items in the 7 to 30 day range, which is where overdue notices start to become more serious. These patrons have had multiple reminders and presumably have some reason for not returning items. Your job is to call them, verify their contact information, and determine whether the items can be returned soon or whether they've been lost and need to be paid for. The first call is to a patron named Rodriguez, who has 3 mysteries overdue by 11 days. The phone number in the system rings 5 times before going to voicemail, a generic automated message with no personal greeting. You leave a message identifying yourself and the library, mentioning the overdue items, and requesting a callback. The call is logged in the system. 9:07 a.m, phone message left, no answer. The second call reaches a live person, a young man who answers slightly out of breath. Hello. Good morning. This is calling from Gotham Public Library about some overdue items on your account. Is this Marcus Chen? Oh yeah, I've been meaning to bring those back. I've just been really busy with work. Are they super late? You check the account. 14 days overdue, 2 programming textbooks, and a DVD. The fines are currently at $21, but if you return them today, we won't assess any additional charges. I can drop them off this afternoon. I'm really sorry about that. No problem, these things happen. We're open until 9 p.m, So any time today works. Do you know where the book return is? The slot in the front of the building, right? That's the one. Thanks for taking care of this. The interaction is friendly, professional, and accomplishes its purpose. The patron has been reminded, has committed to returning the items, and the situation will likely resolve itself by end of day. You log the call. 9:11 a.m. Phone contact. Patron will return today. The third call is less successful. The phone number has been disconnected, which means you'll need to send a physical letter to the patron's address and hope it reaches them. The library's policy is to make every reasonable effort to recover items before declaring them lost, which means trying all available contact methods. You continue through the list methodically, making calls, leaving messages, logging results. Some patrons are apologetic, some are defensive, one is grateful because they genuinely forgotten and appreciate the reminder. Each interaction is different but follows the same basic script. Identify yourself in the library, state the reason for calling, ask about the patron's plans for returning items, provide information about fines and policies, and end professionally regardless of the patron's response. One call reaches an elderly gentleman who's confused about the whole situation. "But I returned those books weeks ago," he insists. "I put them in the slot myself." This requires more careful handling. "Let me check our records more carefully, Mr. Thompson. Sometimes items can be misscanned or misshelved, which would show them as still checked out, even after they've been returned. Can you tell me which titles you remember returning?" He describes the books, mystery novels he thinks, or maybe thrillers, he's not entirely sure. This vagueness isn't uncommon. Many patrons don't remember exact titles, especially if they're genre readers who go through multiple books a week. You search the library's shelves virtually through the catalogue system, checking whether the books show as available, which would indicate they were returned but not properly checked in, or still checked out, which supports the overdue status. The search shows all 3 books still checked out to Mr. Thompson's account, but you also find a note from 2 weeks ago. Patron reported returning items. This note was added by Janice during her shift, which means Mr. Thompson has been saying the same thing for 2 weeks and the items still haven't shown up. Mr. Thompson: "I see a note that you mentioned this before. I'm going to mark these items as lost in library and remove the fines from your account while we do a thorough search. If the books turn up during our next inventory, we'll know they were just misshelved. If they don't turn up, we'll reassess at that point. Does that seem fair?" "Oh, that would be fine, yes. Thank you for understanding. I was certain I'd returned them. Sometimes books end up in unusual places. We'll sort it out. Is your contact information still current in case we need to reach you?" You verify his phone number and email address, update the records with today's conversation, and mark the items for the monthly inventory search. The library maintains a careful balance between recovering materials and maintaining good relationships with patrons, and sometimes that balance means giving people the benefit of the doubt. The overdue calls continue through the rest of the hour. Some reach patrons, some reach voicemail, some reach numbers that are no longer in service. Each one is documented, each one follows procedures, each one represents the library's effort to maintain its collection while treating patrons with respect and understanding. The final call of the session is to a patron with a book that's been overdue for 28 days, just barely short of the 30-day threshold where letters get sent. The patron, a woman named Jefferson, answers on the second ring. "Gotham Public Library calling about an overdue item," you say, going through your standard opening. "Oh, I know," she says, and her voice sounds tired. "I've been dealing with a family emergency out of state. My mother's been in the hospital, and I completely forgot about the library book. I'll pay whatever fines I owe. I just haven't been home to return it." This is where library policy meets human reality, and where the professional judgment of library staff becomes important. "I'm sorry to hear about your mother. Is she doing better?" "She's stable now, thank you for asking. I should be back home next week." You make a decision that's within your authority as reference librarian. "I'm going to extend your due date by 3 weeks, and waive the existing fines. Family emergencies are exactly the kind of situation where we can be flexible. When you get back, just return the book whenever it's convenient. No pressure. The relief in her voice is obvious. Really? Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. Take care of your family. The book will be here when you get back. These are the moments when library work becomes more than just processing transactions, when you're able to help someone during a difficult time, to show that the institution you represent can be flexible and humane. To remember that behind every overdue book is a person with a story and circumstances that matter. The overdue calls are complete, logged and documented in the system. Your coffee is now definitely cold, but you finish it anyway because wasting coffee feels wrong on principle. The report gets filed in the appropriate folder, and you update the weekly statistics that track how many overdue calls result in promises to return, how many go to voicemail, and how many numbers are disconnected. It's now 10:30, and the library has entered its mid-morning rhythm. Several patrons browsing the stacks, a few people using computers, the children's section hosting a parent and toddler pair, and Mrs. Chesterfield still absorbed in her newspaper like clockwork. The next task awaits, but first a quick break to refill your coffee mug while it's still relatively quiet. You're returning from the staff room with fresh coffee when you notice a figure standing at the reference desk, waiting patiently with the particular stillness of someone who's comfortable with waiting and doesn't feel the need to check their phone or shift their weight or otherwise signal impatience. As you get closer, you recognize him despite the casual clothing that's clearly an attempt to avoid recognition. Bruce Wayne, in well-worn jeans and a plain grey sweater that probably cost more than your monthly rent, but looks completely ordinary. He's holding 3 books, which means he's returning materials, and he has that slightly preoccupied expression that suggests he's mentally reviewing whatever he came here to research rather than thinking about the return process itself. Good morning, you say, setting your coffee down and taking your position behind the desk. Returning or checking out? Both, actually, he says, and his voice is exactly what you'd expect. Educated, cultured, but somehow more real than it sounds in the news interviews. Returning these, and I need to find some material on forensic accounting, if you have anything current. You scan the 3 books he's returning while you consider the request. The returns are all from the second floor non-fiction collection, Biochemistry of Poisons and Toxins, 4th edition, Urban Planning in the 20th Century, Case Studies, and the Psychology of Fear and Trauma. The combination is interesting. Exactly the kind of eclectic research that suggests someone with wide-ranging intellectual interests, or possibly someone researching multiple, unrelated topics simultaneously. Forensic accounting, you repeat, typing the search into the catalogue system. Are you looking for something specific? Fraud investigation, financial reconstruction, testimony preparation? All of the above, actually. I'm looking at the financial structure of some Gotham enterprises, and I want to understand how forensic accountants would approach analysing complex corporate structures. The catalogue returns 6 results for books currently in the collection, ranging from textbooks to practical handbooks. You write down the call numbers on a slip of paper. The library still uses paper slips for call numbers because they're more convenient to carry into the stacks than phones or tablets, and less likely to distract from the browsing process. These are all on the second floor, section 65745, you say, handing him the slip. The most current one is from 2023, and it's actually quite comprehensive. Are you teaching a course, or is this for personal research? Personal research, he says, and doesn't elaborate, which is fine. Patron privacy is something you take seriously. And while you're curious about why Bruce Wayne needs books on forensic accounting, criminology, and biochemistry, it's not your business to pry beyond what's necessary to help him find materials. Would you like me to show you where those are, or are you familiar with the second floor layout? I know the way, thank you. I've spent quite a bit of time in the non-fiction section over the years. This doesn't surprise you. The library's records show that Bruce Wayne has been a patron since he was a child, with a card originally issued in his name in 1988 when he was presumably in elementary school. His checkout history, visible to you only because you're processing his returns, shows consistent use of the library throughout his life, with particularly heavy use of the research materials during what must have been his college years, and again in the past decade or so. Before you head up, you say, remembering something, I should mention that we just got in a new book on corporate financial analysis that hasn't been catalogued yet. It came in yesterday's delivery. Would you like me to check it out to you directly from the processing room? It's going to be another week before it's officially in the system. His expression shifts slightly. Not quite a smile, but a recognition of the offer's value. That would be helpful, yes. What's the title? Financial Shenanigans: How to Detect Accounting Gimmicks and Fraud, 4th edition. Just published last month. Perfect. Yes, I'd like that. You make a note to retrieve the book from the processing room. Not technically proper procedure to check out items before they've been fully catalogued, but libraries have some flexibility for research needs, especially when the patron is reliable and the material is clearly relevant to their stated purpose. Bruce Wayne has never had an overdue book in 15 years of consistent library use, so bending procedure slightly seems justifiable. I'll have it ready when you come back down, you say. Should be about 15 minutes to process it into the system ahead of schedule. Thank you, he says, and means it in the way that people who've been well educated in courtesy mean it. Not perfunctory, but genuine within the bounds of formal politeness. He takes the call number slip and heads for the stairs that lead to the second floor, moving with the kind of efficient grace that suggests someone who's very aware of their body and how it moves through space. You watch him go, then retrieve the book from the processing room where new acquisitions sit in organised chaos, waiting their turn to be catalogued, labelled, covered in protective plastic, tagged with security strips, and entered into the library's collection. The book on financial shenanigans is easy to find. It's sitting on top of the business section pile, and you take it back to your desk to process it. The cataloguing process requires several steps, even when you're expediting it. First, you create the item record in the computer system, entering the ISBN, title, author, publisher, publication date, and physical description. The system automatically pulls some of this information from the ISBN lookup, but you verify everything manually because automation isn't infallible. Next, you assign the call number based on the library's classification system. In this case, 657.458 Financial Accounting Fraud, which will place it on the shelf near the other books you've already recommended. You print a spine label from the thermal printer, peel off the backing, and apply it carefully to the book's spine in the exact position that all books in the library use for consistency, 2 inches from the bottom, perfectly centred. The protective plastic covering comes next, a clear adhesive-backed plastic sheet that wraps around the dust jacket to prevent wear and tear. This requires careful application to avoid bubbles or wrinkles, and you've done it often enough that your hands perform the task almost automatically, while your mind considers the interesting pattern of Bruce Wayne's research interests. Someone reading about criminology, biochemistry, urban planning, psychology, and forensic accounting could be an academic working on a research project, a writer researching for a novel, a journalist investigating something, a curious person with wide-ranging interests, or possibly someone who's trying to understand crime and criminals in Gotham for personal reasons that you can only speculate about. You finish the covering job, apply the security strip that will make the exit sensors beep if someone tries to steal the book, and stamp the inside cover with the library's ownership mark. The final step is checking the book out to Bruce Wayne's account, which you do by scanning his library card number from the system and the book's new barcode. The date stamp thunks against the date due card. November 28th, 3 weeks from now. You slide the card back into its pocket, close the book, and set it aside to give to him when he returns from the second floor. While you wait, another patron approaches with a question about finding articles from old magazines. This requires showing him how to use the library's digital archive system, which contains scanned images of magazines dating back to 1950. You walk him through the search process, demonstrate how to save articles to his email, and make sure he's comfortable with the interface before returning to your desk. Bruce Wayne returns after 20 minutes, carrying 4 books, the 3 you recommended plus one he apparently found while browsing. The additional book is about money laundering, which fits with the forensic accounting theme. Find everything you needed, you ask, scanning the books one by one. And more, he says. Your second floor collection is more extensive than I remembered. You add the financial shenanigans book to his pile. This one's officially processed now. All 5 are due November 28th. You can renew online if you need more time. Thank you for expediting that. I appreciate it. That's what we're here for. Let me know if you need anything else. We can do interlibrary loan if there are specific materials we don't have. He nods, collects his books, and heads toward the exit with the kind of purposeful stride that suggests places to be and things to do. You watch him go, then log the interaction in your reference notes. 10:47 a.m. Assisted patron with forensic accounting materials, high research needs, good use of collection. The morning continues its steady progression, each task flowing into the next, the library humming with the quiet activity of people seeking knowledge, entertainment, or just a comfortable place to spend some time away from the noise of Gotham streets. The lunch hour in a library is paradoxically one of the busiest times, as people use their break time to run library errands, returning books on their way to or from lunch, picking up holds before eating, or spending their lunch hour reading in the comfortable chairs scattered throughout the building. The circulation desk experiences a steady stream of patrons during this window, and you settle into the rhythm of scanning, stamping, answering quick questions, and maintaining the flow. A businessman in a suit approaches with a stack of 7 books. Mysteries, all from the same author, all showing signs of being read quickly and returned as a batch. The checkout history confirms what you suspect. He checks out books in bulk every 2 weeks, reads them all, and returns them precisely on time before checking out the next batch. The library system loves patrons like this. High circulation numbers, 0 problems, perfect return rates. Got through all 7? You ask while scanning them. 4 on the subway, 3 during lunch breaks, he says. Do you have any more from this author? You check the catalogue. 2 more in this series, but they're both currently checked out. Would you like me to place holds? Please, and can you recommend something similar while I wait? This is the best kind of reference question. A reader who knows what they like and trusts you to find more of it. You think about the author's style. Fast-paced legal thrillers with smart protagonists and complex plots, and pull up a mental list of similar authors. Try Scott Turow if you haven't already, you suggest. Similar style, legal background, very clever plotting. We have 8 of his books in the collection. Also, Michael Connelly, though his are more police procedural than courtroom drama. I've read all the Turow books, he says. Haven't tried Connelly yet. Give me 3 to start. You write down call numbers for 3 Connelly novels. The first in the Harry Bosch series, plus 2 standalones that work well as introductions to the author's style. The patron thanks you, heads to the stacks, and returns 10 minutes later with the 3 books plus 2 others he found while browsing. You check them all out, stamp the dates, hand them back with the receipt showing his due date, and send him off with, "Enjoy, and let me know if you want more Connelly recommendations after these." The next patron is a mother with a toddler who's clutching a board book about trucks. The child is maybe 2 years old, already showing signs of being comfortable in the library environment, not scared of the space, not intimidated by the shelves and the adults and the quiet. The mother has 5 picture books to check out, all carefully chosen for age appropriateness and all showing wear from being popular with the library's youngest patrons. First library card, you ask, noting that the system shows a registration date from last week. Yes, we just moved to Gotham, and this was one of the first places we visited. He loves it here. That's wonderful. You know about our weekly story time on Thursday mornings? I didn't. What time? 10:30 in the children's section. Songs, stories, and a craft activity. It's free, no registration needed. Just show up. She makes a note in her phone. Thanks you genuinely, and leaves with her small son already opening one of the books to look at the pictures as they walk toward the exit. These interactions helping families discover the library's programs, seeing children develop positive associations with books and reading. These are part of why library work matters beyond just the circulation numbers. A teenager approaches next, looking slightly awkward, in the way that teenagers often do when asking adults for help with anything. I need to print something for school, but I don't know how. You talk him through the process, log into a computer, find his document, send it to the print queue, come to the desk to pay, and release the print job. The library charges 10 cents per page for printing. Barely enough to cover supplies, but enough to prevent waste. He needs 3 pages, which costs 30 cents, and he pays from a handful of coins that are probably his lunch money. The print job releases, and 3 pages emerge from the printer behind the desk. An essay about To Kill a Mockingbird, typed in the required format, with proper citations and page numbers. You hand it to him, and he thanks you with the earnest gratitude of someone who's just avoided a late assignment penalty. Is it double-spaced and everything? He asks, suddenly worried. You glance at the first page. Looks good. 1-inch margins, double-spaced, 12-point font. You're all set. Relief washes over his face, and he carefully tucks the papers into a folder before heading out, probably directly to school, to turn it in before the deadline. The steady flow continues. A woman returns 6 DVDs, all classic films from the 1940s. A man checks out 3 books on gardening. It's October, which means he's probably planning for spring planting, the kind of advanced preparation that gardeners develop as a habit. A graduate student requests help using the microfilm reader to access old newspaper archives, which requires showing him the somewhat arcane machine in the corner and explaining how to navigate newspaper pages on a screen that's probably using technology from 1985. 2 books come back damaged, one with water damage that's clearly from spilled liquid, one with a torn page that's been taped but imperfectly. The patron who returns them is apologetic and immediately offers to pay for them, which you appreciate. You assess the damage and determine that one book can stay in circulation with a note in its record, while the other needs to be withdrawn and replaced. The replacement cost is $11, which the patron pays immediately, and you remove the damaged book from the system and send it to the book sale pile. A regular patron, Mrs. Kim, who comes in twice a week like clockwork, returns her previous mystery novels and asks for recommendations. She likes historical mysteries, preferably set in England or Europe, with female protagonists and no graphic violence. You know this because you've helped her many times before, and you've learned to remember regular patrons' preferences. Have you tried the Lady Emily series by Tasha Alexander? You ask. Oh yes, I've read all of those. How about C.J. Sansom's Shardlake series? Tudor England, lawyer protagonist, very atmospheric. I haven't tried those. Are they very violent? Some violence, but not gratuitous. More focus on the mystery and the historical detail. I'll try the first one, she decides. You find it for her, check it out, and she leaves satisfied with new reading material. These repeat interactions, building relationships with regular patrons, learning their preferences, being able to suggest books they'll actually enjoy. This is the art of library work that goes beyond the technical procedures. The lunch rush begins to slow around 1:15, the stream of patrons reducing to a trickle. You take the opportunity to eat your own lunch at the desk. A sandwich from home, eaten in small bites between patrons, with the newspaper open beside you to skim the headlines during the quieter moments. A phone call comes in requesting the library's hours for the weekend. You provide them from memory. Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday noon to 5, closed Monday for the upcoming holiday. The caller thanks you and hangs up, and you add a note to the reference log. Another call is from a patron asking whether the library has a fax machine available for public use. You confirm that yes, there's a fax machine. It costs $1 per page to send, and it's available during open hours. The patron says they'll be in later and hangs up before you can offer to help with anything else. The afternoon stretches ahead and you glance at your task list to see what needs to be accomplished before your shift ends at 2:30. Reshelving still needs to be done. The cart of returned books has been growing all morning. The daily statistics need to be compiled. The hold shelf needs to be checked for items that have been waiting too long. And there's always the ongoing project of shelf reading. The process of checking that books are in correct order, which never quite gets finished because there's always another section that hasn't been checked recently. But first, one more coffee refill while the afternoon is still relatively quiet. After confirming that the circulation desk is momentarily quiet, no patrons approaching, no phone ringing, no immediate tasks demanding attention, you grab the reshelving cart and wheel it toward the fiction section. The cart is loaded with 23 books that have been processed back into the system and now need to return to their precise locations in the stacks. Reshelving is one of those library tasks that looks simple from the outside but requires attention to detail and a kind of meditative focus that can actually be quite pleasant when you're in the right mindset for it. Fiction is organised alphabetically by author's last name, which sounds straightforward but contains subtle complexities that trip up new library workers and confused patrons. The books on your cart need to go to various spots throughout the fiction section, and you've learned to organise the cart itself in rough alphabetical order before starting, which saves time and reduces the back and forth walking. The first book is The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett, which goes in the H section between Hammett's other works. The library has 7 of his books, all showing various degrees of wear from repeated circulation. Finding the exact spot requires checking the alphabetical order, not just of authors, but of titles within each author. Since Hammett's books are arranged chronologically by publication date, when multiple titles exist, you slide the book into its spot, making sure it's flush with the others, spine properly visible, pushed back far enough to be secure, but not so far back that it's hard to pull out. The small details of shelving matter. A book placed incorrectly can be lost for months. A spine left barely visible can be passed over by browsers. A book shoved too far back becomes difficult for patrons to retrieve. The next several books go quickly. Irving, Jackson, James, Kingsolver. Each one finds its home with the satisfying precision of a key in a lock. The alphabet provides order, and you're simply maintaining that order, ensuring that each book can be found by the next person who needs it. While you're shelving, you perform the other crucial task that happens simultaneously, shelf reading. This means checking that the books already on the shelves are in correct order, catching misshelves before they become problems, straightening books that have been shoved in crooked or pulled forward unevenly. Your hands work in 2 modes, placing the new books, adjusting the old ones, while your eyes scan the spines checking for alphabetical sequence. In the K section, you find a book that's been misshelved. Kuntz has ended up after Lahiri instead of before, probably placed by a well-meaning patron who was close but not quite right. You pull the Kuntz book, find its correct spot and insert it where it belongs. This is why shelf reading matters. Left unchecked, misshelved books effectively disappear from the collection until someone manually discovers them during inventory or happens across them while shelving nearby. The L section is extensive. Lee, Lehane, Leonard, Lessing, Lewis. Each author has multiple books. Each book needs to be in correct chronological order within its author's section, and each spine needs to be visible and accessible. You work steadily, the rhythm of the task becoming almost meditative. Pull book from cart, check call number and author, find location on shelf, insert book precisely, straighten, neighbouring books, move to next. A patron approaches while you're shelving in the M section. "Excuse me, do you know where I can find books by Toni Morrison?" "Same section where I'm working right now," you say, gesturing to the shelves. "Morrison is just a few spots down. Are you looking for a specific title?" "Beloved," she says. You walk her down to the Morrison section, which contains 6 of the author's novels, including 2 copies of Beloved because of its popularity. Both copies are currently on the shelf, which means neither is checked out. Good news for the patron. "Here you go," you say, pulling one copy and handing it to her. This is one of her most powerful novels. Fair warning, it's emotionally intense. "I've heard. It's for a book club discussion next month." "Good choice for discussion. There's a lot to talk about. Anything else I can help you find?" "No, this is perfect, thank you." She takes the book and heads toward the circulation desk to check it out, and you return to your shelving. The cart is now half empty, the books gradually finding their homes in the proper order, the collection being maintained 1 volume at a time. The mystery section deserves special attention because it's one of the most heavily used parts of the fiction collection, which means it's also one of the most prone to disorder. Mysteries are popular in Gotham, perhaps not surprising given the city's relationship with actual crime, and the section shows the wear of constant use. Books are squeezed in tight because the shelves are full, spines show the creasing and fading of repeated checkouts, and the alphabetical order requires constant maintenance. You shelve 3 Agatha Christie mysteries, 2 Sue Grafton novels, and 4 books from Janet Ivanovich's series, each one finding its place in the densely packed shelves. While shelving, you notice that the P section is significantly out of order. Patterson's books are mixed with Paretsky's, and several books are shelved backward with their spines facing the wrong direction. This disorder suggests either a patron who browsed extensively and reshelved carelessly, or possibly a child who was trying to help but didn't understand the system. You pull the entire P section forward, reorganize it completely. This takes 10 minutes but is necessary to maintain the collection's usability, and then continue with your shelving. The cart is nearly empty now, just 5 books remaining. 1 Updike, 2 Vonnegut, 1 Walker, and 1 Woolf. The final book, Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, goes on the shelf in the W section, and you straighten the neighbouring books as a finishing touch. The cart is empty, the books all properly shelved, and you've also corrected probably 20 missed shelves and straightened 100 more books that were crooked or poorly positioned. The fiction section is now in better shape than when you started, and the next patron looking for any of these books will be able to find them exactly where the catalogue says they should be. You wheel the empty cart back toward the circulation desk, passing through the library's main floor. The afternoon light is coming through the windows at a different angle now, creating new patterns of shadow and illumination across the reading tables. Several patrons are scattered throughout the space, an elderly man with a newspaper, a middle-aged woman with a laptop, a teenager with a textbook spread across an entire table, 2 people browsing in the biography section. The library is doing what libraries do, providing space and resources for people to read, research, learn, work, and simply be. The shelving is just one small part of this larger mission, but it's an essential part. Without proper shelving, the collection becomes chaos. With proper shelving, it becomes a resource that serves the community's needs. Back at the circulation desk, you check the time, 1:45. 45 minutes left in your shift, and then Janice will take over for the afternoon and evening hours. You update your task list, noting that fiction shelving is complete, and that the mystery section needed extra attention. The reshelving cart goes back to its spot beside the desk, ready for the next load of returned books. Your coffee has gone cold again. This is a recurring problem in library work, where tasks constantly interrupt any attempt to drink something at proper temperature. But you finish it anyway, appreciating the caffeine regardless of temperature. The afternoon continues its steady progression, moving toward the shift change that marks the transition from your workday to whatever comes after. The hold shelf behind the circulation desk is a carefully organised chaos of books, DVDs, and other materials that patrons have requested through the online system and that are now waiting to be picked up. Each item has a slip of paper tucked into it, showing the patron's name, the date the hold was placed, and the date the item became available. Library policy gives patrons 1 week to pick up their holds before the items are returned to circulation for the next person on the waiting list. At 2 o'clock, with 30 minutes remaining in your shift, you decide to tackle the holds management task that should be done daily but sometimes slips when the desk is busy. The process involves checking each item on the hold shelf, verifying that it hasn't exceeded the 1 week pickup window, and pulling any items that need to be returned to circulation or sent to the next patron on the list. The hold shelf is organised alphabetically by patron last name, with each item standing upright with its hold slip visible. You start at the beginning. Anderson, Bailey, Chen, checking dates and making notes. Most items are recent holds, placed within the last few days, nowhere near their expiration date. A few are getting close to the 1 week mark, and these patrons should receive automated reminder emails today if they haven't already. One item catches your attention. A book on hold for Wayne BT, placed 6 days ago. The book is Gotham Architecture and City Planning, 1870-1920, the same one you'd processed this morning from returns. Bruce Wayne apparently has standing holds on several architectural history books, and the system automatically notifies him when requested items become available. He hasn't picked this one up yet, but given that he was just here this morning checking out other materials, he'll probably come back for it within the next day or two. You make a note in the system that the item was verified as present on the hold shelf, which helps track potential missing items before they become actual problems. If Bruce Wayne doesn't pick it up by tomorrow, you'll call to remind him, following standard procedure for high-demand items. The holds management continues through the alphabet. Most items are straightforward, books waiting for their patrons, all properly documented and within policy timeframes. 3 items have exceeded their 1 week limit and need to be processed. 2 novels and a DVD that patrons apparently decided they no longer wanted. You remove the hold slips, cancel the holds in the computer system, and place the items on the reshelving cart. The system will automatically notify the next patron on the waiting list that their requested items are now available. One hold slip raises a question. A patron named Thompson has a book on hold that was supposedly available 3 days ago, but the book itself isn't on the hold shelf. You search the circulation desk area, check the recently returned cart, and scan the nearby shelves in case it was misshelved. The book doesn't turn up. This requires investigation. You check the item's history in the computer system. It was returned 4 days ago, properly checked in, and immediately placed on hold for Thompson. The system shows it as in transit, hold shelf, which means it should physically be on the hold shelf, but apparently isn't. This is the kind of mystery that occasionally occurs in libraries, items that are in the system, but not in the physical location where they should be. You make a note to search for the book more thoroughly when you have time. It's probably been accidentally placed with regular reshelving or picked up by another patron thinking it was their hold, and you send an email to the evening shift asking them to keep an eye out for it. You also send an apologetic email to Mr. Thompson explaining that there's been a delay in making his hold available and that you'll contact him as soon as it's located. These small failures in the system are inevitable when you're managing thousands of items and dozens of transactions daily, but they're also important to address quickly before patrons lose faith in the hold system. Most people are understanding when mistakes are acknowledged and corrected promptly. The holds management complete. You turn your attention to the special collections inquiry that came in via email this morning and that you've been saving for when you had time to address it properly. The email is from a graduate student researching Gotham's industrial history during the 1940s, specifically looking for primary sources about the Wayne Industries' manufacturing facilities that produced war materials during World War II. This kind of request requires access to the library's archival collection, which is housed in a climate-controlled room on the second floor, and which requires special protocols for viewing. The archives contain documents, photographs, newspapers, and other materials that are too fragile or valuable to circulate normally, but that are available for research use under supervision. You reply to the email, explaining the archive's viewing procedure. The student needs to make an appointment, provide identification, agree to handle materials with clean hands and no pens, pencils only, and work under the supervision of archive staff. You check the archive's calendar and offer 3 possible appointment times over the next week. And you CC Margaret, the archive specialist who handles these appointments. The email also requires checking what materials the library actually has on this topic. You search the archive's database, separate from the main catalogue, and find approximately 40 items that might be relevant. Newspaper clippings about Wayne Industries from the 1940s, photographs of the manufacturing facilities, some correspondence between city officials and company representatives, and several oral history interviews with workers from that era. You list these materials in your email response, giving the student a preview of what they'll be able to access. This kind of research support is less common than regular circulation work, but is often more rewarding intellectually. Helping someone conduct genuine research, providing access to primary source materials that might not be available anywhere else, contributing to scholarship. This is what libraries do beyond just lending books for entertainment. The email sent, you glance at the clock. 2:15, 15 minutes until shift change, and you begin the process of preparing to hand off the desk to Janice. This involves several small tasks, updating the daily log with notes about anything important that happened during your shift, making sure all pending items are properly noted in the system, straightening the desk area so it's organised for the next person, and mentally reviewing whether there's anything you need to communicate directly rather than just leaving in the written notes. Today's notes include contacted patrons about overdues, 12 calls, 8 messages left, 4 spoke directly. Bruce Wayne returned 3 books, checked out 5 books on forensic accounting and related topics. Missing hold for Thompson being investigated, evening shift please search. Archives inquiry from Grady, student responded to, appointment pending, fiction section fully reshelled and shelf read, mystery section needed significant reorganisation. Usual Wednesday patron traffic, no major issues. You print the daily statistics report, a habit even though everything's in the computer. Having a paper copy helps with the shift handoff conversation. And note that today's circulation was slightly above average for a Wednesday. 147 items checked out, 139 items returned, 8 new holds placed, 5 items went to other libraries via interlibrary loan, and the library had 67 visitors who signed in to use computers. Janice arrives at 2:25, 5 minutes early, as she usually does, giving time for the transition conversation. She's worked evenings at Gotham Public Library for 12 years and knows the routine as well as you do, but the handoff still matters. It's how information gets communicated, how problems get identified before they become bigger problems, how institutional knowledge gets passed along. Quiet day, she asks, setting her bag in the staff area. Pretty normal. Lots of returns this morning, a few research questions, one notable patron you should know about. Bruce Wayne was in getting materials on forensic accounting, and there's a missing hold we need to find. You walk her through the notes, point out the search request for Thompson's missing book, mention that the hold shelf is current except for that one item, and note that the overdue calls are done for this week. Janice asks a few clarifying questions, nods in understanding, and settles into the chair behind the circulation desk. Have a good rest of your day, she says. You too. Should be a quiet evening. You gather your things from the staff area, a jacket, a reusable water bottle, the book you're currently reading during breaks, and your phone that's been on silent in your locker since the shift began. The transition from work mode to personal mode is gradual, like adjusting to a different temperature. And you take a moment to simply stand in the staff room and let the shift settle behind you. Through the staff room window, you can see the alley where you entered this morning, and beyond it, the beginning edges of Gotham as it moves into its evening rhythm. The city will get darker, louder, more chaotic as night falls, but here in the library, the evening will maintain its essential character. Quiet, controlled, a refuge from the city's intensity. Before leaving, you check your personal email on your phone and find a message from the library director requesting that all staff read and comment on a draft policy about extending evening hours. You make a mental note to review it at home later, add it to your task list, and then close your email. Work can wait until tomorrow. You head out through the staff entrance, the same door you entered 9 hours ago, and step into Gotham's October afternoon. The air is cooler now, with that particular quality that autumn evenings have in the city, a mix of exhaust fumes, fallen leaves, distant cooking smells from restaurants preparing for dinner service, and something else that's simply city in a way that's hard to define, but instantly recognisable. The library stands behind you, its stone facade solid and permanent in a city that sometimes feels like it's constantly changing or constantly fighting itself. Inside, Janice will handle the evening shift, answering questions, checking out books, helping patrons, maintaining the system, until the library closes at 9 p.m, and she locks the doors and arms the security system and leaves the building to its night security guard. And tomorrow morning, you'll be back at 6:45, turning the key in the lock, starting the coffee, turning on the lights, preparing the circulation desk for another day of service. The rhythm continues, steady and reliable, the library serving its community one transaction at a time, one question answered at a time, one book shelved in its proper place at a time. But for now, you're off duty, and the afternoon is yours to spend as you choose. You walk down the library's front steps, past the stone lions that guard the entrance, and merge into the foot traffic of Gotham's early evening street life. Just another person in the crowd. No longer the librarian, but simply a resident of the city, moving through your life like everyone else. The work was good today. Not dramatic, not particularly exciting, but good in the way that competent professional work is good. Necessary, helpful, properly done. Tomorrow will bring more of the same, and you're comfortable with that. Library work suits you. Its combination of public service and behind-the-scenes organisation. Its mix of helping individuals and maintaining systems. Its balance of routine and variety. You stop at a coffee shop on your walk home. Not for coffee this time, but for one of their autumn pastries. A small reward for a shift well worked. The baker recognises you as a regular and adds an extra piece of apple because there was extra and it's just going to go stale. This small kindness is characteristic of your neighbourhood in Gotham, where despite the city's reputation, people still practice the small courtesies that make community possible. Walking through the October evening, pastry in hand, you think about tomorrow's shift. There will be returns to process, questions to answer, books to shelve, and probably another visit from Bruce Wayne, or another patron with unusual research needs. There will be overdue calls to make, holds to manage, patrons to help, and the ongoing work of keeping the library running smoothly. The work continues, day after day, shift after shift, creating the steady backdrop that makes Gotham's library system function. And you're part of that system, one person among many, contributing your particular skills and attention to a larger project that's been ongoing for over a century, and will continue long after you've moved on to whatever comes next in your life. But that's tomorrow's concern. Tonight you'll have dinner, read for pleasure instead of work, perhaps watch something mindless on television, and sleep knowing that you did your job well and that tomorrow offers more of the same. The routine is comforting in its predictability, and you've learned not to wish for more excitement in a city that provides plenty of excitement for those who seek it. The library is enough. The work is enough. The steady rhythm of service is enough. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again. The alarm sounds at 5:30, as it does every weekday morning, and you move through your morning routine with the same practiced efficiency that you bring to library work. Shower, coffee, breakfast, the news on quietly in the background, providing context about whatever happened in Gotham overnight that you don't particularly want to know about in detail. By 6:15, you're dressed and ready to leave, giving yourself the 30-minute commute window that gets you to the library by 6:45. The bus ride is mostly empty at this hour, carrying the city's early shift workers to their various jobs. Hospital staff, bakery workers, people who keep the city's infrastructure running while most of Gotham sleeps. You sit in your usual spot, 3 rows from the front, watching the city pass by through windows that need cleaning but provide adequate view regardless. Gotham in early morning is a different city from Gotham in evening, quieter, less frantic, still waking up to face whatever the day brings. The buildings look solid in the grey dawn light, and even the neighbourhoods that are dangerous at night seem merely tired at 6 in the morning, their residents either asleep or just beginning their days. The bus reaches your stop at 6:37, and you walk the 3 blocks to the library, arriving at 6:43, 2 minutes earlier than yesterday, which means you can take an extra minute to simply stand outside and drink coffee from the travel mug you carried from home. The library's stone facade faces east, catching the early morning light, and you appreciate the building's architecture in a way you don't usually take time for. Its solid construction, its institutional dignity, its sense of permanence in a temporary world. At 6:45 exactly, you unlock the staff entrance and step inside, beginning the opening routine that you could probably perform in your sleep. Lights on in sequence, coffee started in the staff room, computer booted at circulation desk, phone system activated, morning inspection of the space to ensure nothing's amiss. The library is exactly as it should be, quiet, organised, ready for the day's service. Janice left good notes from evening shift. Busy evening, 94 checkouts, found Thompson's missing hold book. It was misshelved in biography, patron notified, and will pick up today. Computer 4 is running slow, probably needs restart. Routine evening otherwise. You read the note about Computer 4 and make a mental note to restart it before patrons arrive. A simple fix that solves most computer problems. The note about Thompson's book is good news. You hate when items go missing, and finding it means the system is working as intended, just with the occasional human error that's inevitable in any operation. The morning opening continues. You brew the coffee, which fills the staff room with its familiar smell. You check the book return cart, which Marcus has already retrieved from the outside slot. 18 items this morning, a lighter load than yesterday. You verify that all the computers are logged in and ready for patron use, restarting Computer 4 as noted. At 6:58, 2 minutes before official opening, you're at the circulation desk with your coffee, the daily checklist complete, ready for whatever comes through the doors. The routine is established, the rhythm is set, and you're prepared for another day of library service. The first task of the day, before any patrons arrive, is checking the overdue lists that generate automatically overnight. The system sends out automated emails to patrons, but you review the lists to identify anything that needs personal attention, any patterns that suggest problems, any items that have crossed into the seriously overdue category where collection efforts need to intensify. You print the 3-page report, and it's immediately clear that today's list is longer than usual. 37 items overdue by various amounts, including several that have just crossed into the 30-day territory where letters need to be sent. You settle in with your coffee and begin reviewing the list systematically. The first page contains the 7-day or less category, and most entries are straightforward, until you reach an entry that makes you pause. Wayne, BT, 1 item overdue by 3 days. This is unusual because Bruce Wayne has never had an overdue item In his 15 years as a library patron, you check the item, Gotham Architecture and City Planning, 1870-1920, the book that was on hold for him and that you'd noted on yesterday's hold shelf. The system shows the book was checked out to him 3 weeks ago, which doesn't match what you remember from yesterday's holds management. You dig deeper into the item history and find the explanation. There are 2 copies of this book, and he checked out the other copy 3 weeks ago, while also having a hold on the first copy. The overdue is for the copy he checked out, not the one waiting on the hold shelf. This situation requires a phone call rather than just an automated email, because Bruce Wayne is a reliable patron, and 3 days overdue is unusual enough to suggest something happened. You note the item to call about later in the morning, after a reasonable hour for phone calls to wealthy patrons who might not appreciate being contacted at 7:15 a.m. about library books. The rest of the 7-day list is routine. Individual books overdue by a few days, nothing concerning yet. All patrons who'll receive automated reminder emails. You note one patron who has 5 items all overdue by exactly the same number of days, which suggests a batch checkout that became a batch forgetting, worth a personal call to remind them. But the second page contains items 7 to 30 days overdue, the range where overdues become more concerning. You scan the names and see several familiar ones, repeat offenders who regularly go slightly over the due date, who you've called before, who always promise to return the item soon, and usually do. These patrons don't require urgent action yet, but they're trending in the wrong direction. One entry requires immediate attention. A patron named Martinez has 15 items, all overdue by 12 days, representing a substantial portion of the library's collection of popular mysteries. You make a note to call this patron first thing, because 15 items overdue suggests either a serious life disruption or someone who's decided to ignore library policies and either way needs personal contact. The third page contains the seriously overdue items, 30 to 90 days, and here the actions required are more formal. These patrons receive letters sent via regular mail, in addition to all previous email and phone contacts, and their accounts are already blocked from checking out more materials until the situation is resolved. You recognise one name on this list, Patterson, J, with 6 items overdue by 73 days. You've called this patron 3 times, left 4 messages, sent 2 emails, and received no response. The items need to be declared lost at this point, and the patron's account needs to be referred to the collection agency that handles the library's seriously overdue accounts. This is the part of library work you like least, punitive actions against patrons, but it's necessary to maintain the collection's integrity. You prepare the paperwork to declare the items lost. 6 mysteries, total replacement cost of $68, plus late fees of $84, calculated at 25 cents per day per item, for a total of $152 that will be billed to the patron. The account goes to the collection agency with documentation of all contact attempts, and Mr. Patterson will receive notification via certified mail that his account has been referred for collection. This action is always a last resort, used only when multiple contact attempts have failed, and when the items have been unavailable to other patrons for long enough that the library's service mission is being compromised. You've been doing this job long enough to know that sometimes people have legitimate reasons for not responding. Illness, family emergency, death, financial crisis. But the library also has a responsibility to its collection and its other patrons. The overdue review complete, you prepare your calling list for the morning. 9 patrons to contact, ranging from friendly reminders to more serious conversations about seriously overdue materials. You prioritise the list, Martinez with 15 items first, then Bruce Wayne as a courtesy call, then the others in order of severity. The time is now 7:19 and the first patron is entering through the main doors. An elderly woman who comes in every Thursday morning, you realise, always at exactly the same time, always heading directly to the new bookshelf to see what's arrived. The rhythm of the library continues, each day bringing its particular mix of routine and variation, of expected patterns and small surprises. You greet the patron with your standard morning welcome. "Good morning. Let me know if you need any help finding anything." She nods and continues toward the new books, and you return your attention to the day's tasks. The overdue calls await, but first a quick check of the email to see if anything urgent came in overnight. One message stands out. From the library director, marked high priority, with the subject line, "System-wide policy update, overdue fine amnesty program." You open it and read quickly. The library system is implementing a week-long amnesty program next month, forgiving all overdue fines for any items returned during that week, no questions asked. The goal is to recover materials and encourage lapsed patrons to return to library use without the barrier of accumulated fines. The email includes implementation details, marketing materials, and instructions for how to process returns during the amnesty period. This is good news. Fine amnesty programs are proven to work, recovering materials that might otherwise never return, and bringing back patrons who've stayed away because of fine anxiety. You make a note to read the full email more carefully later and to discuss implementation with Janice during the shift change. But now, the morning's work calls. You pick up the phone to begin the overdue calls, starting with Martinez and his 15 missing mysteries. The number rings 4 times before someone answers, slightly out of breath. "Hello? Good morning. This is calling from Gotham Public Library. Is this Mr. Martinez?" "Oh God, the library books. Yes, I've been meaning to call. My car broke down 2 weeks ago, and I haven't been able to get to the library to return them. They're all sitting in a bag by my front door. I just don't have transportation." This is exactly the kind of explanation that makes library work simultaneously frustrating and rewarding. The patron isn't ignoring the overdues. They have a legitimate obstacle, and this is where the library can be flexible. "I understand," you say. "Would it help if I arranged for one of our courier drivers to pick them up from your address? We sometimes do this for patrons who have mobility issues." "Really? That would be amazing. I was getting stressed about the fines accumulating. What's your address?" He provides it, an address in a neighbourhood that the courier van passes through on its regular route. You make a note to contact the courier service, which handles inter-library transfers and occasionally does special pickups for situations like this. "I'll have someone contact you today to arrange a pickup time. In the meantime, I'll note your account that return arrangements are being made, which will stop additional fines from accruing. Thank you so much. I was worried I'd owe hundreds of dollars. Current fines are $22.50, but we're addressing the situation, so don't worry about that right now. Just have the books ready when the courier calls." You end the call and immediately email the courier service with the pickup request, copying the library director to document the special accommodation. These kinds of flexibility, adapting policy to serve patrons who are genuinely trying to comply, are what make libraries community institutions rather than just rule enforcement organisations. The next call is to Bruce Wayne, which you make from the reference desk phone rather than your cell, maintaining professionalism, even though calling a billionaire about a library book feels slightly absurd. The number in the system is a mobile number, and it rings 3 times before being answered by a voice you recognise from yesterday. "Wayne. Good morning, Mr. Wayne. This is from Gotham Public Library. I'm calling about an overdue book on your account, the architecture and planning book you checked out 3 weeks ago. It was due Monday, and I wanted to make sure everything's okay." There's a brief pause and you can hear paper rustling in the background. "Which architecture book? I've had several out recently." You check the specific title. "Gotham Architecture and City Planning, 1870 art, 1920. Right, that one's in my car actually. I kept meaning to bring it back when I came in for the other materials. I'll drop it off today." "No problem at all. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't lost. since overdue items are unusual for your account. I appreciate the call. I'll definitely bring it in this afternoon. Thank you. And just so you know, there's another copy of that book on hold for you, the one I mentioned you'd requested. It's still on the hold shelf if you want to pick it up when you return the overdue copy. Perfect. I'll take care of both when I come in. The call ends professionally, and you note the account. 11:03, 7:34 a.m. Spoke with patron. Will return overdue item today. Bruce Wayne's perfect record will be restored by this afternoon, and the brief overdue will be a minor blip in an otherwise exemplary library history. The remaining calls are variations on familiar themes. Some patrons forgot, some had life events, one changed addresses and didn't receive the automated emails, another thought they'd return the items but apparently didn't. You address each situation individually, finding solutions where possible, escalating to standard consequences when necessary, maintaining the balance between service and accountability that good library management requires. By 8:15, the overdue calls are complete and documented. Your morning coffee has gone cold, which seems to be the natural state of library coffee, and you refill it from the staff room pot before returning to the circulation desk. The morning is progressing exactly as mornings do, and you're settling into the day's rhythm. A patron approaches with returns. Another comes in looking for computer access. A third asks whether the library has the most recent issue of a specific magazine. Each interaction is handled, each need is addressed, and the library continues its essential work of serving Gotham's citizens, one transaction at a time. The morning moves into its late phase, approaching noon, when the phone rings with a different kind of request. The voice on the other end is professional, measured, and immediately identifies itself as calling from Wayne Enterprises. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Wayne, who mentioned that your library has archival materials related to Gotham's industrial history during the 1940s. He's interested in reviewing these materials as part of research he's conducting into the city's development patterns. This is unusual enough to warrant careful attention. Most patrons contact the library directly about archives access, and most don't have assistants calling to schedule appointments. But Bruce Wayne is not most patrons, and the request itself is legitimate. Yes, we do have extensive materials from that period, you confirm. For archives access, we require an appointment with our archives specialist. Would Mr. Wayne be available for an appointment next week? He has availability tomorrow afternoon, actually. Would 2 o'clock work? You check the archives calendar on your computer. There's an appointment at 10 a.m. tomorrow, but nothing at 2. Tomorrow at 2 would be fine. I'll need to coordinate with our archives specialist to ensure she's available. Can I confirm the details with you and call back within the hour? Of course, this is the best number to reach me. The assistant provides a phone number and a name, something like Alfred, you think, though the connection briefly cuts out, and the call ends with professional courtesy on both sides. You immediately email Margaret, the archives specialist, about the appointment request. Margaret works 3 days a week at the library, and tomorrow is one of her days, but she needs advance notice for archives appointments because the space requires preparation and supervision. Her response comes back within 10 minutes. Wayne Enterprises, interesting. Yes, I can do 2 p.m. tomorrow. What materials is he interested in? Specifically, you forward the relevant parts of yesterday's graduate student email, the one about Wayne Industries manufacturing during WHU, and add a note. Different patron but same topic. He checked out 5 books yesterday on forensic accounting and related subjects. Seems to be doing comprehensive research on something. Margaret's response is characteristically dry. Billionaires and graduate students researching the same topic. Wonder what that's about. I'll prepare the materials and set up the viewing room. You can confirm the appointment. You call back the assistant, Alfred, the name comes through clearly this time, and confirm that Bruce Wayne has an archives appointment tomorrow at 2 p.m. with instructions to use the main entrance, ask for Margaret at the reference desk, and bring valid identification for the sign-in process. Alfred confirms all details with the precision of someone who regularly manages complex schedules, and the call ends with mutual acknowledgement of the arrangements. The interaction is logged in the reference notice. Archives appointment scheduled for Bruce Wayne, 11:04, 2 p.m, industrial history research, Margaret notified, and materials being prepared. The note will ensure that evening staff knows about tomorrow's appointment and that the morning staff tomorrow can prepare appropriately. This kind of specialised research support is less common than regular circulation work, but it's one of the aspects of library service that you find most satisfying. Someone with presumably unlimited resources and access to private research services still finds value in the public library's unique collections and chooses to use them. This validation of the library's mission is meaningful, a reminder that even in an age of internet research and private databases, there's still a role for curated, preserved historical materials accessible through public institutions. A patron approaches the desk with a different kind of research question. Do you have anything about learning computer programming? I want to teach myself, but I don't know where to start. This is a reference interview question. You need to determine the patron's actual needs, rather than just pointing to the computer programming section. What kind of programming are you interested in? Web development, mobile apps, data analysis, something else? I don't really know the difference. I just want to learn to code. Okay, let's start with basics then. Have you ever done any programming before? Or would this be completely new? Completely new. I saw something about it being a good career path, and I'd like to try it. This level of beginner needs both books and practical resources. You stand up and gesture for him to follow you to the computer book section. Technology, 04006 in the Dewey Decimal System. The library's collection includes beginner programming books covering several languages, plus books about choosing a language and understanding programming concepts. Start with this one, you say, pulling a book titled Programming for Absolute Beginners. It explains basic concepts and helps you decide which language to learn first. Then once you've read that, come back and we'll get you books on whichever language you choose. Python is popular for beginners, JavaScript for web development, Java for general purpose programming. Is there like a class or something? Not regularly, but the library offers occasional workshops. Let me check. You pull up the library's events calendar on your phone. There's an introduction to Python workshop on November 15th, 6 to 8 p.m, free but registration required. Would that interest you? Yes! How do I sign up? You walk him back to the circulation desk and show him the library's website, navigating to the events page and the workshop registration form. Fill this out and you'll receive a confirmation email. The workshop is hands-on, so bring a laptop if you have one, or you can use our computers. This is great, thank you. You're welcome. And after the workshop, come find me or any of the reference staff, and we'll help you find more resources. Programming is very learnable if you're motivated. The patron leaves with the beginner's book checked out and a workshop registration confirmation in his email. And you've potentially helped someone start a new career path, or at least a valuable skill. These kinds of interactions, providing not just information, but guidance, not just resources, but direction, are what make reference work more than just answering questions. The phone rings again, and this time it's a simpler request. Someone asking whether the library has a specific cookbook. You check the catalogue, confirm that yes, the library owns it, but it's currently checked out, offer to place a hold and complete the transaction in under 3 minutes. Not every reference question requires extensive research or consultation. A family enters with children, and the kids immediately head for the children's section while the parents browse in fiction. You watch peripherally to ensure the children aren't climbing on furniture or disrupting other patrons, but they're well behaved, quietly selecting books and showing them to each other with the kind of enthusiasm that suggests regular library visits and comfort with the space. The noon hour approaches, and with it the lunch crowd. People stopping in on their breaks to return items, pick up holds, or use the library's resources for a few minutes before heading back to work. The circulation desk experiences a brief burst of activity: 5 checkouts in 10 minutes, 3 returns, 2 holds picked up, 1 question about photocopying prices, and a request for directions to the nearest bank branch. You handle each interaction efficiently, maintaining the flow, keeping the line moving without rushing anyone, providing complete service while being aware that others are waiting. This is a skill that library work teaches: how to serve individuals thoughtfully while managing group dynamics, how to be both personal and efficient, how to make each person feel helped without making everyone else wait indefinitely. The lunch rush subsides around 12:30, and you take advantage of the lull to eat your own lunch, brought from home, a sandwich and an apple, consumed at the desk between patrons, because leaving the desk unstaffed during open hours isn't an option. The newspaper sits beside your lunch and you skim the headlines while chewing. Another crime story about some dramatic incident in Gotham's East Side, a political piece about city budget debates, a feature about a new restaurant opening downtown. Your attention is only partly on the news. The other part is always monitoring the library floor, watching for patrons who might need help, listening for phones or questions, maintaining awareness of the space you're responsible for. This divided attention is another library skill: being present for your work while also being available for interruption, staying focused while remaining alert. A patron you recognise from previous visits approaches the desk. She's a graduate student who comes in regularly to use the research databases that the library subscribes to, and that provide access to academic journals and scholarly articles. Can you help me with the JSTOR database? I'm looking for articles about urban poverty from the 1990s, but my searches keep returning way too many results. This requires showing her advanced search techniques, how to limit by date range, how to use Boolean operators to combine search terms, how to filter by subject classification, how to save searches for future reference. You walk her through the process, demonstrating on the computer beside the reference desk, and within 10 minutes she has a much more manageable results set and the knowledge to refine it further on her own. "Thank you," she says. "I never would have figured out that Boolean OR thing on my own." Boolean searching is one of those things that seems obvious once you know it, but isn't intuitive at first. You're doing well. She returns to her table with a laptop and a legal pad, ready to work through the search results, and you feel the quiet satisfaction of having taught someone a skill rather than just answering a question. Give someone a search result, and they find one article. Teach them Boolean searching, and they can find anything they need. The afternoon continues its steady progression toward the shift change that will mark the end of your workday. Tasks accumulate and get completed. Books are checked in and out. Questions are answered. The phone rings and is answered. Patrons come and go, and the library maintains its function as a community resource, open and available, serving whoever walks through the doors. At 1:15, with just over an hour remaining in your shift, Bruce Wayne returns to the library, entering with the same understated presence as yesterday. Casual clothes, no obvious security, moving through the space like anyone else, despite being one of Gotham's most recognisable residents. He's carrying a book, presumably the overdue architecture text from his car, and he approaches the circulation desk directly. "Returning the overdue book," he says without preamble. "And I'd like to pick up the hold that's waiting." You scan the return, exactly the book you'd called about this morning, and note in the system that the overdue has been resolved. Fine waived due to patron communication and prompt return. The hold book comes off the shelf behind you, and you check it out to his account, stamp the date due card, and hand it across the desk. All set, due November 21st, and just confirming, you have an archives appointment tomorrow at 2? "I do. I'm looking forward to it." Margaret will meet you at the reference desk when you arrive. The archives room is upstairs and she'll go through the procedures with you. Perfect. He pauses, then adds, I appreciate the quality of service here. The research support has been excellent. This is high praise from someone who could afford private research assistants and extensive personal libraries. We're here to help. If there are other materials you need, just let us know. He nods and turns to leave, then stops and looks back. Actually, one more thing. Do you have anything on shell corporations and offshore financial structures? Legal analysis, not how-to guides? This is an interesting addition to his research pattern. You search the catalogue while he waits. We have 3 books on international financial regulation, 2 on corporate law, including offshore structures, and several law review articles in our database subscriptions. Want me to print a list? Please. You print the list with call numbers and database access instructions, hand it to him, and watch as he scans it quickly before folding it and putting it in his pocket. This is helpful. I'll be back for some of these. We're open until 9 p.m. today if you want to browse now, or tomorrow when you come for the archives. Tomorrow might work better. Thank you again. He leaves, and you make another note in the reference log. Bruce Wayne, extensive business finance research continuing, provided additional resources on corporate structures, will follow up tomorrow. The pattern of his research is intriguing. Criminology, forensic accounting, financial structures, urban planning, all focused on understanding how crime and business intersect. If you were to speculate, which you don't do professionally but might consider privately, you'd guess he's either writing something, investigating something for business reasons, or possibly just intellectually curious about how Gotham's economy actually functions beneath its surface. But speculation is unprofessional, and his research needs are his own business. Your job is to provide resources, not to question why someone wants them. The afternoon moves toward its conclusion. You update the statistics sheet with the day's numbers, slightly higher circulation than yesterday, reflecting the normal week-over-week variation that happens in library usage. The daily log gets its final entries. Notes about patrons helped, calls made, tasks completed, items needing follow-up for the next shift. At 2 o'clock, Janice arrives early again, and you begin the familiar shift transition. Today's handoff includes more information than usual. The archives appointment tomorrow, Bruce Wayne's continuing research needs, the overdue situation with Martinez that's being resolved through courier pickup, and the usual collection of small details that keep the library running smoothly. Busy day? Janice asks. Interesting day. Lots of reference questions, some unusual research requests, normal circulation numbers. The hold shelf is current, overdues are being managed, and we have that archives appointment tomorrow that Margaret knows about. Bruce Wayne using the archives, that's different. He's doing serious research on something. Forensic accounting, corporate structures, urban history. Very focused. Well, at least he returns his books, Janice says with the pragmatism of someone who's dealt with enough overdue accounts to appreciate patrons who follow the rules. You gather your things, make the transition from work to personal time, and head out through the staff entrance into Gotham's afternoon. The city is different at 2:30 than at 7 a.m. More crowded, more energetic, moving at full speed through its Thursday afternoon rhythms. The work was good again, helping patrons, managing the collection, supporting research, maintaining systems, all the ordinary tasks that constitute library service, performed competently and professionally. Tomorrow will bring the archives appointment, more circulation work, probably more questions from Bruce Wayne, and the continuing rhythm of library operations. But for now, you're off duty, and the rest of the day is yours. The library will continue without you, Janice handling the afternoon and evening with the same attention to detail and patron service that characterises her work. The system continues, larger than any individual worker, sustained by the collective effort of everyone who contributes to its operation. You walk toward the bus stop, already thinking about tomorrow morning's opening routine, the tasks that await, the continuing project of keeping knowledge accessible to anyone who wants it. Library work suits you, and you're content with that. The afternoon stretches ahead, and beyond it, another morning shift, another day of service, another opportunity to do work that matters in small, steady, accumulating ways. Friday morning arrives with the same routine: alarm at 5:30, morning preparations, bus ride through Gotham's waking streets, arrival at the library at 6:45. The opening sequence is so familiar now that you could perform it in your sleep, and perhaps in some sense you're performing it in your sleep, moving through the motions with the automatic competence of long practice. Coffee brews, lights activate, computers boot up, and by 7 a.m. the library is ready for another day of service. The morning starts quietly, typical for Friday mornings, when people seem to be recovering from the week and not yet focused on weekend activities. You use the quiet time to catch up on email, review the daily statistics from yesterday, and prepare for the archives appointment at 2 p.m. Margaret arrives at 9:30, her half-day Friday schedule bringing her in earlier than usual to prepare for the afternoon session. She's in her early 60s with grey hair pulled back in a practical bun and glasses that she wears on a chain around her neck, taking them off and on as she shifts between close-up work and distance vision. She's been the library's archives specialist for 20 years and knows the collection better than anyone else alive. So, Bruce Wayne wants to see our industrial history materials, she says, sitting down beside you at the circulation desk with a cup of tea. Margaret doesn't drink coffee, considers it too aggressive for proper archival work. He's doing some kind of research project, very focused on Gotham's development, particularly corporate structures and manufacturing history. Interesting. Most people who use the archives are either academics or genealogists. Having a billionaire researcher is unusual. He's been a good patron, never had an overdue until this week, and he fixed that immediately when I called. Well, I've pulled out everything we have on Wayne Industries during the 1940s, about 40 documents, including photos, correspondence, and newspaper clippings. Should keep him busy for a few hours. You handle the morning circulation work, while Margaret prepares the archives room. The space is on the second floor, a climate-controlled room with specialised lighting, large tables for document viewing, and locked cabinets containing the library's most valuable and fragile materials. Margaret has strict protocols. Visitors must sign in, leave bags and jackets in lockers outside the room, use only pencils, never pens, handle materials with clean hands and often with provided cotton gloves, and work under direct supervision to ensure nothing gets damaged or stolen. The morning progresses through its typical Friday patterns. Circulation is steady, but not overwhelming. People returning books before the weekend, picking up holds, browsing for weekend reading. You help a patron find books on Italian cooking, assist someone with computer printing, and answer a phone question about weekend hours. At 1:45, you take a quick break to use the restroom and refresh your coffee, wanting to be alert and available when Bruce Wayne arrives for his appointment. Margaret is already in the archives room, final preparations complete, materials organised on the viewing table, logbook ready to document what's accessed. At 1:57, Bruce Wayne enters the library, 3 minutes early for his 2 o'clock appointment. He's wearing business casual today, slacks and a button-down shirt, and carrying only a small notebook and a pencil, having apparently been briefed on the no pens policy. He approaches the reference desk, and you greet him with the same professional courtesy you'd give any patron. "Good afternoon, Mr. Wayne. Margaret's ready for you in the archives. Let me take you upstairs." You lead him to the second floor, walking through the non-fiction stacks to the back corner where the archives entrance is located. The door is marked with a small plaque. Special collections and archives, supervised access only. Inside, Margaret is waiting, and you make the introduction. "Margaret, this is Bruce Wayne. Mr. Wayne, this is Margaret, our archive specialist. She'll be supervising your research session today." Margaret shakes his hand with professional courtesy and immediately begins explaining the protocols. "Welcome to our archives. Before we begin, I need you to sign the access log with your name, date and research topic. Then I'll show you what materials I've prepared and we'll go over the handling procedures. You leave them to it and return to the circulation desk, trusting Margaret to manage the session. Archives work is her domain, and she's excellent at balancing access with preservation, helping researchers find what they need while ensuring materials are properly protected. The afternoon continues downstairs. A patron needs help with the photocopier, which is jammed in the complicated way that photocopiers do, requiring you to open 3 different panels and extract crumpled paper from places paper shouldn't be able to reach. You finally clear the jam, explain to the patron how to avoid it in the future, don't overload the document feeder, and return to the desk. The phone rings with a question about whether the library accepts donated books. You explain the donation policy. Yes, the library accepts books in good condition, but cannot guarantee that donated books will be added to the collection. Some go to the annual book sale, some go to other libraries in the system, and some might be declined if they're in poor condition or on topics the library already has extensively covered. The caller says they'll bring in 3 boxes of books next week, and you note it in the maintenance log, so Marcus knows to expect them. At 3:30, an hour and a half into the archives session, Margaret appears at the circulation desk, looking slightly bemused. He's very thorough. He's photographing everything, with permission of course, and following all protocols, but he's going through every document methodically, taking notes, asking good questions about context and provenance. Find anything interesting in the materials? Mostly what you'd expect: manufacturing records, correspondence about war production contracts, some photos of the factories. But he's particularly interested in the financial paperwork, which is unusual. Most people look at the photos and ignore the boring administrative documents. He's been researching forensic accounting and corporate structures. Probably makes sense that he's interested in the financial side. Well, he's going to be here a while. I told him we close at 5 on Fridays and he said that's fine. He'll come back next week if needed to finish reviewing everything. Margaret returns to the archives and you continue with circulation work. Friday afternoons are busier than Friday mornings. People coming in to stock up on weekend reading. Parents bringing children to select books for the weekend. College students arriving to use study spaces. The circulation desk handles a steady stream of checkouts and questions, and the time passes quickly. At 4:45, Margaret and Bruce Wayne emerge from the archives, and you can see from the stack of papers he's carrying that he's been given permission to take photocopies of certain documents, something Margaret allows for research purposes when the materials aren't too fragile or restricted. He approaches the circulation desk to check out several books he apparently selected before coming upstairs. 3 books on Gotham's labour history during the 1940s, 2 on urban development, and 1 on wartime manufacturing. You process the checkouts, stamp the date due cards, and hand him the receipt showing everything's due November 28th. Find what you needed in the archives, you ask? Very much so. Margaret was extremely helpful. I'll need to come back to finish reviewing everything, but I made substantial progress today. Margaret said you're welcome to schedule another appointment next week. I'll do that. This has been valuable research. Thank you for the service. He leaves with his books and photocopies, and you note the interaction in the reference log. Bruce Wayne, archive session 2, 4:45 p.m, reviewed WE manufacturing materials, will return for additional session. Checked out 6 books on labour history and urban development. The pattern of his research is becoming clearer. He's investigating something about Gotham's economic history, specifically how corporate power and manufacturing developed during a crucial period, and he's doing it with the thoroughness of someone who actually cares about getting the details right rather than just skimming for broad impressions. Margaret comes to the circulation desk as closing time approaches. That was interesting. He asked very specific questions about document authenticity and provenance, wanted to know where we got various items, how we verified their accuracy, whether we had corroborating materials. Very academic approach for someone who isn't an academic. Maybe he's writing something, a business history or corporate biography. Maybe. Or maybe he just likes thorough research. Either way, he's a good archives user, careful with materials, respectful of protocols, asks good questions. I told him to come back Tuesday afternoon if he wants to continue. At 5 o'clock, you begin the Friday closing routine, which is different from weekday routines because the library is closed Saturday until noon, which means the building will be empty for more hours than usual. Extra security checks, ensuring all windows are locked, verifying that nothing's been left out that shouldn't be, setting the building alarm properly. The final patrons leave at 4:57 and you lock the main doors at 5:01. The weekend stretches ahead, your days off, when someone else will handle library operations and you'll have time to live your own life, separate from the work that fills your weekdays. But Monday will come, and with it another opening routine, another day of circulation and reference work, another shift in the continuing project of keeping the library running. The work never really ends. It just pauses while different people take their turns maintaining it. You gather your things, say goodbye to Margaret who's finishing her own closing tasks, and exit through the staff entrance into Gotham's Friday evening. The city is transitioning into weekend mode. More energy, more noise, more chaos than weekday evenings. But that's Gotham. Always intense, always in motion. The library stands behind you, locked and alarmed, waiting for tomorrow's noon opening, when it will resume its service mission. And Monday morning, you'll be back at 6:45, turning the key, starting the coffee, beginning again the daily work that you've been doing for years, and will likely continue doing for years more. The rhythm continues, steady and reliable, exactly as library work should be. And so another week passes in Gotham's Public Library. Books checked in and out, questions answered, patrons helped, collections maintained, systems preserved. The work continues its steady rhythm, day after day, week after week, serving the community through the simple act of keeping knowledge accessible to anyone who seeks it. Behind the circulation desk, the date stamp sits ready for Monday morning's first checkout. The call number slip sits beside it, waiting to direct someone to exactly the book they need. The computer system runs quietly, tracking thousands of items and hundreds of patrons, maintaining the digital web that makes modern library work possible. Upstairs in the archives, documents wait in their climate-controlled storage, holding pieces of Gotham's history for researchers who care enough to seek them out. On the shelves throughout the building, books stand in alphabetical order, each one a doorway to information or entertainment or transformation, each one accessible to anyone with a library card and the desire to read. The library is quiet now, locked for the weekend, but it's never truly empty. The presence of all those books, all that accumulated knowledge, all those stories, they fill the space even when no people are present. The building holds memory and possibility in equal measure, waiting for Monday's reopening when it will once again fulfill its purpose. And Monday will come. The door will be unlocked, the lights will come on, the coffee will brew, and the work will begin again. Patrons will arrive with questions and needs, books will circulate, reference work will happen, and the library will continue its essential function of making information freely available to everyone. This is what libraries do. This is what library workers do. Day after ordinary day, maintaining the systems that keep knowledge accessible, helping individuals find what they need, preserving collections for future generations, and serving their communities through the simple, essential work of librarianship. Thank you for spending these hours with me behind the circulation desk at Gotham Public Library. Thank you for letting me share the quiet satisfaction of library work, its routines and procedures, its mix of public service and behind-the-scenes organisation, its steady contribution to community welfare through the accumulated effect of small daily acts of service. May your weekend be peaceful, your sleep be deep, and your own life be filled with the kind of quiet purpose that makes ordinary work meaningful. Good night from Gotham, where even in a city of chaos, the library remains a place of order, access, and steady service to anyone who walks through its doors.